Throughout history, various cultures have grappled with the complex issues of honor, shame, and the consequences of defeat or disgrace. In this exploration, we delve into three distinct practices that highlight the lengths individuals would go to preserve their dignity or escape the repercussions of their actions. Seppuku in feudal Japan, jauhar in medieval India, and self-exile in ancient Rome. Have you ever heard of a samurai who chose to end his life by plunging a blade into his own stomach? This is the story of seppuku, a centuries-old Japanese ritual that has captivated and horrified people around the world. Seppuku, also known as harakiri, is a form of unaliving ritual that originated in feudal Japan. The word harakiri literally translates to belly cutting, which gives you an idea of the grim nature of this practice. Seppuku involves the act of self-disembowelment with a short sword called a tanto, followed by decapitation by a kaishakunin, or a second who assists in the ritual. The origins of seppuku can be traced back to the 12th century during the Kamakura period. But why would someone choose to end their life in such a painful and gruesome way? Samurai perform seppuku for various reasons, including avoiding capture and dishonor on the battlefield, as a form of capital punishment, as an act of loyalty to a deceased master, or even as a protest against a decision made by their lord or the government. The way of the samurai is deeply intertwined with the concept of honor and death. As reflected in the famous quotes, "The way of the samurai is found in death" by Yamamoto Tsunetomo, and "The essence of being a samurai is to die" by Saigo Takamori. Speaking of Saigo Takamori, he was one of the most famous samurai to commit seppuku. A prominent leader of the Satsuma Rebellion, he chose to end his life after the defeat of his forces. Another notable figure was Yukio Mishima, a renowned Japanese author, playwright, and nationalist who committed seppuku after a failed coup attempt in 1970. The ritual of seppuku was not limited to men. In rare cases, women of the samurai class also committed a form of ritual of unaliving, known as jigai, which involved cutting the jugular vein with a knife. As Japan modernized during the Meiji Restoration in the late 19th century, the practice of seppuku was officially banned. However, it has left an indelible mark on Japanese history and culture. In the annals of Indian history, few stories resonate with the pathos of jauhar, a practice in which women chose death over dishonor in the face of imminent defeat and captivity. The term jauhar refers to the mass self-immolation of women, particularly among the Rajput communities, known for their valor and strict code of honor. When confronted with certain defeat and the threat of enslavement and rape by invading armies, Rajput women would commit jauhar to protect their dignity. One of the most evocative examples is Rani Padmini of Chittor, who is often quoted as saying, "There are only two ways to live life, either as per your own wish or as per others' wish. The first is a life of respect, and the second is a life of disgrace." This quote encapsulates the spirit behind the drastic choice of jauhar. Many women, including Rani Padmini, Rani Karnavati, and less frequently mentioned Rani Durgavati, have become enduring symbols of this practice, their stories echoing through the ages. Primarily associated with the Rajputs, there are indications that jauhar was occasionally adopted by other communities in dire circumstances, often paralleling the ritual of sati, though they are distinct practices. Jauhar was a collective act of self-immolation by women to avoid capture, while sati was performed by widows on their husbands' funeral pyres. The historical instance often cited as the last significant occurrence of jauhar was during the 1567-68 siege of Chittorgarh by the Mughal Emperor Akbar. Imagine being a prominent Roman, faced with the dire prospect of scandal, shame, or political defeat. Instead of waiting for the hammer to fall, you choose to leave everything behind and go into self-exile. But why did Romans choose this path, and what can we learn from their stories? Self-exile was not officially mandated by Roman law, but became a customary escape valve for those entangled in the republics and later the empire's complex political machinery. This practice allowed individuals, especially those from the upper echelons of society, to dodge severe penalties like execution, confiscation of property, or even dishonor. By voluntarily leaving Rome, they could preserve their wealth and avoid the disgrace of a public trial. The reasons for self-exile were as varied as the individuals themselves, encompassing political rivalry, impending legal charges, or even personal disgrace that rendered their continued presence in Rome untenable. Notable figures such as Cicero, Ovid, and Seneca the Younger found themselves in such predicaments. Cicero was exiled due to his political conflicts, Ovid for reasons cloaked in mystery, but hinted to involve a poem and a mistake, and Seneca was exiled on accusations of an affair. These exiles often did not go quietly into obscurity. From their refuges, they wrote works that we still read today, influencing literature and philosophy far beyond their lifetimes. Seneca penned thoughts that captured the essence of exile, stating, "Where you are is of no moment, but only what you are doing there. It is not the place that ennobles you, but you the place, and this only by doing that which is great and noble." But exile wasn't just a time of reflection and writing. It was a whole new chapter of life, sometimes accompanied by family, and often in locations like the islands of Corsica or the distant shores of the Black Sea. These places, though remote, were not necessarily devoid of Roman influence. Exiles brought their culture, lifestyle, and even their wealth, which could significantly impact the local areas. However, exile was not necessarily the end of the road. The political winds of Rome were ever-changing, and shifts in power could facilitate a return from exile, restoring the exiled to their former status. It's extremely difficult nowadays to imagine that one would perform seppuku, jauhar, or even self-exile to protect their honor. We can only try to put ourselves in the shoes of those who faced such stark choices throughout history, though the social, cultural, and personal factors that shape their decisions remain in many ways opaque to us. In reflecting on these practices, we are challenged to deeply examine our own notions of honor, shame, and dignity, as well as the lengths we would go to uphold them. Though the specific actions might differ drastically today, the underlying human struggles and motivations behind them continue to resonate across time, forcing us to grapple with profound and enduring questions about the nature of an honorable life.